The British Parliament will hold up to 7 votes on Wednesday. Well, we're not quite sure how they're going to do it, but lawmakers are scrambling to find a way forward for Brexit. For some Brexiteers are changing their tune, signalling they'll back Theresa May's deal. It's not because they like it any more than before, it's because they feel Brexit is slipping away. The Eurosceptic Jacob Rees-Mogg, who heads up the ERG, European Research Group, tweeted, "The choice seems to be Mrs May's deal or no Brexit." Now, Lord LaMont is with me, Norman Lamont, the former finance minister. Your Lordship, we'll worry about the mechanisms for these indicative votes, because it's not clear how they're going to do it. But is it your fear now that Brexit is slipping away?
I do believe Brexit will happen in one form or another, but I think the best way to ensure that it happens is to vote for the deal. I mean, I've said that some time ago. It's not just something I'm saying today. It's been obvious to me for some time that by making objections to so many different aspects of it, the Brexiteers are in danger of making perhaps not a perfect deal into an enemy of Brexit.
How did they get it so wrong? How did they not realise that MV2 was the moment to sign on? Because thereafter, the cascading events were so unknown.
Well, I think there was an assumption from the very beginning that one could get to no deal and that no deal would be allowed to happen. I personally have always been very sceptical about that. I felt that Parliament, by one means or another, would obstruct the course towards no deal.
Certainly, we had indicative votes on that in the earlier part. But it begs the question, what does happen next? I mean, in your view, we've got these votes tomorrow, which we're not entirely certain the mechanism, but they're supposed to give an indication of what Parliament would find acceptable.
Well, they're supposed to. Of course, nobody knows quite what form of voting, quite how this is going to be done. An extraordinary amount of power seems to have been ceded to the Speaker to decide this. Are people going to list things 1, 2, 3, 4? Is it going to be preferential voting? Are the results going to be made public? I would hope so. That would be an outrage if members of Parliament voted secretly. But how are they going to publish all their preferences? Or fill up half a newspaper if they do that. So I think it's very, very unclear where this will lead. And of course, it is not mandatory on the government, but the government have taken a step down this road, which of course makes it, from the government's point of view, rather dangerous, because if you go down this road a bit, people are saying, well, what's the point of this? Why aren't you bound by it?
And when would you expect MV3, meaningful vote 3, on the Prime Minister's bill? Now, I know what she said in the House yesterday. She's not going to bring it back because there was no support for it. But that support will only come from the ERG and the DUP.
Well, that's right. I mean, it looks to me today that it won't happen this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up and was totally astonished. I don't know everything that's going on. I would have thought it could well be next week, but perhaps it will never be moved if they don't think they can get it through.
What's the mood like over there?
I think the mood is chaotic and the mood is rather depressed.
I mean, when you're walking around and in the tea rooms and all of that, there's a feeling of people shushing in the corners and whispering.
Well, I don't know about whispering in corners, but there is a lot of acrimony. I think it's not good in Westminster. I've never been to meetings before where people have been so ill-tempered with each other.
What will it take? Because what will it take to get the ERG, the European Reform Group, Research Group, and the DUP on board, bearing in mind the backstop is not going to go. That's there. So she's had the commitments, but what do you think it will now take to get those MPs to sign on?
Well, I think it's not for me to speak for the ERG. It's not I don't have any authority to do that. I'm not, strictly speaking, a member of it.
But you know what they're thinking.
I know I've got a lot of friends, yes, and I do know what they're thinking.
Yes.
I personally think they would be well advised to understand that while this, from their point of view, is not a perfect deal, it is the only deal that is going to happen and have a chance of delivering Brexit. I think if we go back to a longer extension, 2 years or something like that, Brexit would never happen. We have a very long extension. With every month that passes, the momentum diminishes, the legitimacy of demands for a second referendum will increase. So, I think quite a lot of Conservative MPs are coming around to this viewpoint. The DUP, though, I see no sign that they are changing their objection. But perhaps there's something happening in private, I don't know.
So let's have it. It's so uncertain, we've decided to employ a Brexitometer. And the Brexitometer has a variety of things. We're going to track the change. So these are your options. A general election, as you see it on the screen in front of you, a general election, no Brexit, second referendum, leaving with a deal, leaving without a deal. As you look at it tonight, as we are sitting talking now, which way is the wind blowing?
Well, I think the wind is blowing a bit towards a softer Brexit or a longer extension. I don't think the wind is blowing towards a second referendum. In fact, I think you'll find on the options that people vote on, the second referendum won't appear because people don't think it would be...
So that's a deal. So that's a deal in a variety of a deal. Good to see you.